Good day everyone, I am Mr. John Paul Salas Jose, your rapporteur, and for today's video we will be dealing with a topic which is I am not also familiar before, but as I studied it and go through with it, I've learned a lot. And when we speak and write, we don't even notice that what we are doing has something to do with this topic. And it has something to do with the unity and relevance of what we communicate. So our topic for today is all about cohesion and coherence. At the end of this lesson, we should be able to define what is cohesion and coherence. We can be able to identify cohesive ties in text and analyze a text from a point of view of cohesion and coherence. So let us now first define what is coherence and cohesion. So coherence has something to do with sense. That is why when a text or discourse makes sense to a reader, then definitely the text is said to have coherence. While cohesion in functional grammar, it relates to how texts are held together lexically and grammatically as a whole. So to understand it better, we have an example here. Mommy beat John. John had come home late. So this example is coherent but not cohesive. Why? Coherent because it it is still has sense, but not cohesive because just like when we cook a recipe, there is a lacking of ingredient. There is missing. So letter B, Mommy beat John because he had come home late. This is an example of cohesive and coherent. Why? Because we uses coordinating conjunction because and pronoun he to relate to connect the first clause to the second clause so that it has unity, it has relevance. So Mommy beat John because he had come home late, so it is more comprehensive rather than the latter example. So there are 5 ways of giving a text cohesion. So let us illustrate them and embark with our detailed discussion. Number 1 is referential cohesion. This means using pronoun and determiners to refer to the known nouns in a text. For example, I met with Samuel and he asked me to pay him a visit. So we use pronoun he to refer to Samuel because instead of saying I met with Samuel and Samuel asked me to pay him a visit, that is redundant and we can able to tackle it as we go through to our discussion. So we have two kinds of referencing, backward and forward referencing. Backward referencing is anaphoric reference and forward referencing is cataphoric reference. We have an example here. Jane had permanent booking at the theater or Star Theater, but she decided not to go today. So she refers to anaphorically to Jane. So this is backward reference. While after several years, as she approached another renewal for her vows, Melissa was cancelled to an interview with a visiting French priest. So she and her refers to cataphorically to Melissa. So this is forward referencing. Number 2 is conjunctive cohesion. This comprises the use of core conjunctions or basically using coordinating conjunctions. But today we will be involving 3 coordinators such as and, but, and or, and conjuncts which are of various kinds. So, for example, in the ancient society, the people gathered together in the arena and made laws that guided the land. So, basically, and used to join words or to add. So, we added made laws that guided the land to the first clause. The second one is there are laws guiding the conduct of people in the society, but people break them in their propensity. So, but used to introduce a statement that adds something to a previous statement and usually contrasts with in some way. So, other than. That's it. So we contrast the first clause, but people break them in their propensity. That is, um, that is the reason why we use but is to contrast the first clause. And the last one is where people live their wills, they have to choose. They have the choice to obey the law or break it. So or indicates alternative. So whether the people living their wills, they have the choice to rather obey the law or break it. So there are two options. Number three is elliptical cohesion. So this is ellipsis denotes a kind of substitution by zero. So it deals with the omission of words while simultaneously relying to readers' mind to deduce and fill the missing bits from what they have read. So it we used here in this course we use it to avoid repetition and redundancy. Just like my example a while back in referential cohesion about some well. So we have an example here. She prayed and slept. So she is left unsaid in the second clause. So instead of saying she prayed and she slept, we omit the word she for the second clause. So it is unsaid in the second clause. This is to avoid repetition or redundancy. The fourth one is substitution. So this denotes replacing a linguistic item with one another. So there are it's a little bit confusing because elliptical cohesion and substitution is somehow related to each other. Somehow it they have the same meaning. That is why when you take an exam, this was so crazy. You get bothered and you might get confused about it. But let us try to differentiate it. So just like what I've said, this denotes replacing a linguistic item with one another. So for example, would you like a cup of tea? Yes, I'd like one. So the response was yes, I'd like one. So one replaced a cup of tea. So instead of saying, would you like a cup of tea? Yes, I'd like a cup of tea. So we replace a cup of tea, one. Number 5 under methods of achieving cohesion in this course is lexical cohesion. So this means using word to achieve unity in a text. For example, we all drank after eating a good meal. Drink and water collates just as eat and meal. So it's an order. And let's go deeper with lexical cohesion because it still has 4 varieties. Number 1 under its 4 varieties is repetition. Basically repeated words. For instance, play, play, play. That's all you seem to do. So play, play, play are the repeated words. Second one is synonymy or synonyms using similar meanings. So I saw this large dog, really huge. So large and huge are synonyms. The third one is antonymy or antonyms using opposite meaning. So get educated. You can't always stay ignorant. So we highlight here educated and ignorant. That is the antonyms or antonymy in this portion. The last one is collation or using words that go with each other. My friend did me a favor last. My friend did me a favor last week. So that's it. So just like what I've said a while back, we have only 5 ways of giving a text cohesion. But I also included here parallelism. Parallelism obtains when syntactic structure or pattern is repeated. So for instance, I came, I saw, I conquered. So when I came, I saw something, I conquered. So basically, as we observe, I is repeated in this statement. So moving on to the stylistic values of cohesion and coherence, I have note 4. One is both cohesion and coherence constitute part of the features of textuality which is a text must possess to be defined as communicative piece. Secondly, both are stylistically valuable. It is, as they assist the text to exhibit logical consistency and clarity such as can enable the readers to have a good grasp of it. And coherence accounts the meaningfulness or relevance of a text, while the cohesion defines the textuality of a text. So in conclusion, we should note that while coherence deals with sense, cohesion relates to the unity. Then the concept of sense relate to the notion of meaningfulness or relevance. When we communicate, we create certain lexical and grammatical ties that bind our writing or speech together, and any piece of communication that is logical will be coherent. And that's exactly correct. So what are logicality in any piece of text we analyze stylistically. So I hope you've learned something about our discussion for today. Again, I am Mr. John Paul Salas Jose, your rapporteur, saying padayon.